Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming out for the second week of the Minnesota Junior PGA Winter Series seminar presented by the Impact Golf Group. We've got a lot of the same faces from last week. However, we've got a few new faces as well. We've got some of the team members from Rip Golf here tonight. We're going to talk about power, speed, and how to bomb it. I'm kicking it off because I'm the director of speed, if you guys remember from last week. So we're going to help you guys learn how to get as fast as possible. With that being said, we're going to kick it off to the doctor, the real doctor, Mr. Luc Benoit, and he'll start us with everything. Just remember, like last week, if you guys have any question, don't hesitate to use that little Q&A portion. We'll try to answer those as fast as we can and try to get to all of them. So let's have some fun tonight. And Luke, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Scotty. Yes, we're looking for high participation and to answer your questions. If you ask something that we're going to cover later, we'll just mention that. But fire away. We want a lot of questions. So let's dig into it. You guys met some of us last week. This is the Impact Golf Group. We've got Eric Childs, John Rigstead, Brent Snyder, myself, and Scotty. We'll get Scotty up there eventually, but he's part of our next group. And I'm going to jump back with you guys for a second, all my Impact Golf Group guys. How important do you think speed and distance is for your own game? And do you have any regrets about how you trained as a kid? Because I think that's a really important thing as we get going.
Yeah, I can start. So I played a lot of sports growing up, baseball, hockey, that helped me with speed. So naturally have had some speed. With that said, feel it's very important. Good story is kind of think about another golf pro was telling me, if you have Dustin Johnson versus Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson is constantly 2 clubs ahead of him, Jordan Spieth might beat him on any given week, but throughout the span of a whole season, when we have Dustin Johnson hitting wedges and Jordan Spieth hitting 8 irons, you're going to see a big difference between those two. So distance is very important.
Brent, what do you got?
Yeah, I grew up, I don't have it. So my cruising speed with a driver is about 105-ish. I grew up playing soccer and a ton of skiing. So most of my stuff is body awareness and balance and just kind of understanding how everything moves and having a pretty good sense of where stuff is in the space of a swing. In terms of doing it at really escalated speeds, I don't have it. I'm trying now. It's a pretty interesting journey as I'm working on it a little bit. I have a couple events here and there where it's going to make a difference sectionally and locally. It's not a huge issue. I'm still able to compete at that level, but a couple levels up makes a big difference for sure. And I think to John's point, it's just you get into the stats of where it goes and dispersion, and I think it's 10% on either side. So you start looking at 300 in the air. The decade system and course management stuff will tell you got 30 yards on either side, whether that's the right trigger to pull or not. And I don't think about any of that stuff. I try to have my driver and my tee shots at a dispersion of my irons, which is completely unrealistic, but that's how I play golf because I don't have that component. So it's pretty interesting. I'll play plenty of rounds where people have 1 or 2 less clubs than I do. At the end of the day, though, we do need to get it in the hole. So there is a lot to it for sure. What I'm really noticing with my skiing career, I shattered my coccyx, which is my tailbone. So I've got a lot of smart people involved, just helping me with my body, a lot of like injury prevention and getting stronger and faster just to kind of protect what I've got going in my back. So there's a lot to it. And I definitely defer to the experts on this stuff without a question.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know Brent is you're one of those guys that you hit it so straight, you get away with maybe hitting it 260 in the air versus 280 in the air.
That's right.
And if the setup is fast, Brent is very tough to beat because he's going to have wedges in and he's going to keep it in play better than everybody else. Scotty, talk about your speed and how important you think it is, especially for these guys getting going.
Yeah, no, I played golf growing up, not a ton though, but I tried to play every single sport under the sun. I played some tennis. I played some baseball. I played basketball. I played football. I mean, every single sport. So I think just my hand-eye coordination is really, really good. I did a lot of running growing up, long distance running, which isn't really conducive to getting speed. So maybe that's hurting me now, but we're working on it now. We're first day in the gym, seriously doing my workouts today, and I'm going to really get onto my ripstick training. But yeah, I mean, distance is everything. I mean, it's not everything, but it gives you a leg up, and you're playing with a stacked deck if you've got distance and a little bit of accuracy. So very, very critical.
Yeah, I think that's great. All right, so let's jump in here with some recaps from last week, and then we're going to meet our kind of ripstick staff a little bit. So I asked you guys last time, did you get a coach? Do you have a coach? Did you find a place to practice? How are you at with motivation, and who's on your team? Meaning, like, who's going to help you support this goal? So if it's not a coach, is it going to be parents? Is it going to be friends? Is it golf buddies that are going to help you reach your goals? So I just want you guys to keep thinking about some of those goals as you dive in here. And now we're going to talk about our Rip Golf team. So Rip Golf, you guys probably heard of us. Ripsticks, the product. It's Scott, myself, and we've hired a couple of great trainers, Sarah Iverson and Brian Everett. And Sarah is a 2-time state champ. Sarah, I want you to speak from a kind of a female perspective on distance. I coached at St. Olaf women's golf for 7 years, and I felt like distance was an incredible advantage. Can you talk a little bit about that for your game?
Yeah, it probably wasn't until I went to college that I noticed that the farther you hit it, the advantage you have on a lot of other golfers. I played at Colorado State, so that's in Fort Collins, Colorado, and you hit it farther there because of the elevation, which was awesome. But then when we traveled for tournaments and you hit it less, you really noticed a big difference in your score and your accuracy. Kind of like what I think was it John or Joe that touched on it right away, that said if you're hitting an 8-iron compared to a wedge, you're just simply not going to be as accurate. So really, the farther you can hit it, the more beneficial to your game.
Yeah, and if you find a good teaching pro, hitting it straight becomes obviously easier. I grew up hitting it all over the place, and I still kind of hit it all over the place. But you do get straighter as you get older. And
do you, Luke?
I think some people do. It's a theory anyway. So you can get a little straighter as you get older, but it's very hard to gain speed, and that's one thing we're going to talk about tonight. So I'm also going to introduce Brian Everett. Brian, you work with a lot of golfers. How many golfers come to you and want more distance?
I would say 100% of them. That's the number one thing that we discuss over everything. And obviously they want to dial in the game, but that's not what I've tried to accomplish with them in the past. That's something that you guys do. This is kind of fun that I'm kind of that weekend warrior compared to all you guys. I know all about speed from sports growing up and training for speed and power, but it's kind of fun to get into this world and like dive completely into it with people that have the skills, but may not necessarily have the strength component that they can turn into more distance.
Right. And so really what we are is we're trying to be a really good team. So we got people that can help you with your swing. We also have people that can help you with the training aspect. So I think you guys get that. So really what Rip Golf is we're research. We're big time borrowing from other people. TPI is a great model. TPI is Titleist Performance Institute. If you guys don't know what TPI is, TPI was created by Titleist so that golfers would live longer and play golf at a higher level for longer, with the goal of buying more golf balls. Because if they can get people in their 60s and 70s to play a little longer, they're going to buy more golf balls, which is kind of interesting. I'm kind of saying that a little bit facetiously, but they actually did state that in their mission. We want people to golf longer. So that's a lot of where we gather our expertise from. And then we've created some of our own models, which we're going to talk a little bit about. We've got a tool, which is the Ripstick, which is a key part of what we call overspeed training and overload training, which we'll talk a little bit about. We've got some swing experts, Scott and myself, and then our fitness group. And then Sarah's jumping on and going to help us with some college advising as well. So that's kind of our team with Ripstick. And we're a local team. We're also kind of a global team as we start to ramp up our brand and our business. So that's where we come from. You guys saw the slide. I love it. It's just a great example of, how many different ways there are to get your swing to work for you. But I think the nature of how golf is taught is changing quickly. In the 80s and 90s, swing planes mattered a lot more than they do today. And now we're seeing that maybe speed and fitness matter more. But if you ask Jack Nicklaus what made him a great player, it was his distance advantage. But people are talking a lot more about how to use the ground and this idea of bombing it so far that you have short clubs in can really help.
Hey, Luke.
Yes, you got a question?
I got a question.
Let's do it.
Any sadness in any of you that more and more distance has become a part of the game?
Well, I don't think the game is easy just because distance is important. I think the more distance you have, it's fun to hit it far, but I don't feel any sadness about it. I still think that hitting it straight is important. It's almost like if everybody hits at 340 yards, the guys that hits it the straightest is probably going to have a better chance at that distance. So if you think about it proportionally, like when I coached Division III golf, they're like 80% fairways hit. And you know what? Distance mattered a lot because almost everybody was in the fairway all the time. When you start hitting at 350 yards, it's a lot harder to hit it straight. So accuracy still matters at every level. I don't think that's ever going to go away. You guys have anything?
I think my sadness comes from the fact that some of the great golf courses just can't really keep up. Look at Interlaken, for example. It's a top 100 club. We're never going to have a tour event at Interlaken because it's not a big enough golf course. So that's where my sadness is. I think it's the evolution of the game. It's obviously changing, but look at Bryson. He won the U.S. Open and became the favorite at the Masters overwhelmingly. He didn't win. You still have to put the ball in the hole, right?
And who beat him? Remember who beat him? Bernhard Langer was swinging at 99 miles per hour.
Yes.
Was swinging at 133, and he got smoked by a 63-year-old man, right? So
yes,
straight is still going to matter at So good question. So this last piece is really what we call the Bryson effect, and it's starting to change what the perception of when you can train. So we know genetics play a role. Some people are just simply going to be faster, and you can measure this from a biology standpoint, which is muscle fibers. I'm sure you guys have heard of, fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers. And some of us are born with different components. Like you can do a little test with your fingers. If your index finger is shorter than your ring finger, you're more than likely going to be a little faster just because of that single trait. If you've got a short ring finger compared to your index finger, there you go. You're built for less speed. Doesn't mean you can't still be pretty fast, right? So there is a genetic component here. Now, you can train in the right window and take advantage of whatever genetics you have. So we know at young kids, they need to develop a kind of 3 core abilities to create speed, which is they need to run fast, they need to jump high, and they need to throw hard. And if you can do those 3 things when you're young, you have a great advantage in hitting your first speed window. And those speed windows are very important really up until 14 to 18. And then 14 to 18 is when you can start maybe hitting the weights much harder. So this is something we talked about with our team about when do you start training heavier. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think there's a lot of kind of people are scared to lift too heavy too early. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that and some of the research as well. But getting back to this point about Bryson, here he is in 2018. I don't know what he was, maybe 170 or 80 pounds. His club head speed's 118, and now he is 230, and his club head speed's 135. So in 18 months, he picked up something like 40 to 50 yards of distance. So just imagine if you decided you wanted to train for speed and you could pick up 40 yards of distance in 18 months, how good you could be at this game. Maybe you hit it 200 right now, and if you hit it 240, how much better you'd be. So that's the advantage we're trying to give you guys. You don't have to eat 18 protein shakes a day to do this. You can do it in a reasonable way. But that's the advantage we see. So we have this kind of model, and this is kind of an interesting way, I think, to look at it. We've got impact dynamics, which is the efficiency. And this is something like playing with Brent and Scott, these guys, and Riggy too. These guys are so good at maximizing what they have and hitting it efficiently far by hitting up on the ball, hitting it on the right part of the face. This should be a driver, but if you hit it with a low spin and a high launch, you can be very long without crazy amount of speed. So that's the golf pro's job. That's part of the distance component. And then you've got your speed component, which is a big factor of strength, mobility, and then sequencing and how you move your body. So this is our own research we created, as this graph of charting power, which we measure in 4 different ways, and we chart it next to clubhead speed, meaning we can do 3 different tests, actually 4, but 3 main tests, which is your vertical jump, and then your med ball toss, which is throwing a ball out like this on like a chest pass, and then your overhead toss. And those 3 combined with hand strength can predict about 90% of your speed. So when somebody walks in the door, if they say, hey, I think I should hit it farther than I do, we can screen them in 3 minutes and we can tell them, no, you shouldn't. This is how far you should hit it. Or, yeah, you probably should. And we got to find some of these problems. So then we go ahead and we look at the swing. And this is what, golf pros do all the time. But, we measure it. We look at your swing and we see if there's a leak, so are you not using the ground well? That could be your, ground mechanics. Are you not using your wrist well? Or are you not rotating well? And pretty quickly we can find out, what the weak link is and add speed. The people that are well below their predicted value because they're fairly strong, these people stand the best chance to pick up crazy amounts of speed. And it's fun when I get like a football player, a linebacker, a wrestler in that is fairly strong, but they don't hit it very far, because I can honestly stand in front of them and say, I can help you gain 40 yards in 2 months. And I'm usually right, because they have so much speed and power in the tank, they don't know how to use it. This is not a typical problem for a junior golfer. Usually it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more like this guy, Andrew, where he comes in and his vertical is 18 inches, his chest pass is 12 feet, his overhead pass is 12 feet, and his clubhead speed's 94. And then I think this was about 15 months of between our screen, he picked up 5 inches of vertical, 6 feet of chest pass, and 3 feet of overhead pass, and his clubhead speed went up to 111. So that's what happens when you're skinny and maybe a little bit on the weak side, and then you get a little stronger, and that's really the fun part. But your body already moves in a good way, and so that most of you are kind of in that sort of mode where maybe you already have fast hips. If you don't have fast hips, we need to make sure we get that biomechanical plan going. You need to learn how to twist your hips, and that's coaching, and that's sequencing work, and that's really a lot of overspeed training. And then it's the trainer's job to put some meat on your bones so you can move it out there and hit it pretty far. So I'm going to call on some of our fitness experts for a second here. And like Brian and Sarah, if you guys could pipe in and talk about maybe a little bit about how you'd train somebody like Andrew that was already fairly fast with their hips and they have good mobility and they move well. How would you train them?
Do you want me to take it, Sarah?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll wrap up after you.
A lot of time. I'm sorry. What age was he when he started with you, Scott? Luke?
Yeah. So let's talk about Andrew. Now he is basically 15. So okay. He's 15, and this is kind of his pattern. He moves it pretty good.
A lot of times you have to take into account just kind of where they are developmentally in terms of puberty, in terms of something called training age. So the amount of time they have on their body, either training with body weight or their efficiency and movement and just their overall knowledge of lifting. When you move well in golf, you're obviously athletic. You can create, a more athletic move than most people can just because you play golf. But getting stronger and more stable, he's clearly flexible at that age. You don't have to necessarily worry about that, but it's becoming stable in terms of also being able to decelerate that body when you start to ramp up speed, club head speed, and just body speed in general. Excuse me. But yeah, start incorporating multi-joint movements like squats. Maybe it's just body weight squats for a while. Just because he can create speed doesn't mean he does it efficiently and effectively. So you have to watch out for, just like you were talking about leaks and swing. I would look at it, someone who's coached Olympic lifting for 8 years. I'm looking for leaks in power between ground and from the ankle to the knee to the hip and all the way up, as opposed to on the way down. So if his knees are diving in, that valgus movement of his knees, he's putting tremendous, stress on the inside of his ACLs and things like that. So I just look at a few different things than you guys do, but all in the same vein. So we have to figure out with movement screens what they're ready for first. And then we talk about nutrition and getting the kid to eat. If you're trying to put on, muscle, you can't do it without eating.
Right.
So it's proper nutrition, building good habits right away, and hydration, just all the things that most parents have told their kids, but they don't necessarily want to hear it from their parents. So they maybe need to hear it from some other people. I have children now. I get it.
Yeah.
I have to be pretty tactful about how I speak to my daughters. So it's teaching me how to speak to other children a lot better now that I have my own. So I hope that answered what you were looking for.
Yeah, that's great. Sarah, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on the assessment too, because I really like that you have the before and the after, because maybe physically you don't see a lot of changes, like to your muscle groups or things like that, or maybe you don't feel more mobile, but you clearly can see the numbers, which is really fun. Everyone's addicted to results, right? So making sure you're assessing your body all the time is a fun way to just measure results.
Yeah.
Sarah,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you wish you would have had somebody help you with your fitness when you were at that age?
Yeah, I was all of you sitting here like 15 years ago, and I was very active in many different sports. So it wasn't that I wasn't active enough, but it wasn't specific to golf by any means until I got to college. And that's when we had a strength and conditioning coach. She kicked my butt for the first 2 years before I realized that she can really help me. And that's when I became addicted. And that's why I got into the fitness industry.
And can I say something on that one too?
Sure.
That's so kind of along the same lines. I had an injury when I was a senior in high school, and I was going to be playing college baseball. So I was not with golf, but with baseball. I never lifted. In my generation, we just didn't do that. And until I got into the military and started getting into this field, I can't even imagine how much stronger and more explosive I could have been at that age if I had had a little bit of direction. So it's a very beneficial trend that's going on right now to take advantage of.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have regrets about, I didn't work out the way I should have. And that was my biggest regret from when I was playing professionally in the mini tours, is I could hit it about 310, but I wish I would have hit it 320 or 330. And I don't think I was very stable either. So again, don't look back with regrets, get a good plan and get in that life habit. So here's just a quick little thing on the swings here, a little promo we did on Instagram, a couple of good swings. There's Andrew's move. So you can see he really uses his hips well, explodes off the ground. He's got 250% of his body weight at impact on his left foot. So incredible ground force usage, which is what we talk a lot about in terms of vertical and why it's so important. You have to be able to jump to hit it far. If you could think of any professional athlete that you're trying to maybe create crazy distance with, NBA players would be the fastest group to hit it 400 yards. And I don't think they can manage the swing plane very well. And I don't think they can hit it straight at all, but they could hit it an absolute mile because they can jump. You got a question, Scott?
Yeah, just verification on whether or not the miles per hour we're talking about ball speed or club head speed. And it's club head speed.
Yeah. Yep. So what's
the average out on tour now club head speed, Luke?
Well, I think TPI says it's like up to 113, but I think it's even a little bit more maybe. I don't know if they've tested recently, probably 114, 115.
Okay.
So, And LPGA Tour is, I think, 94 or 95 maybe, although that's, I think, Sarah, you mentioned, like, you were talking to a college coach, and I've heard this too. Like, if you're not over 95 miles per hour as a gal, it's a limiting factor. Is that what, did you mention that, Sarah? Is that right?
I did. I talked to a Division I coach, and she said that. She said she wants to see her incoming players be swinging 95 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that kind of equates to 240, maybe 250 off the tee minimum, right? So, yeah. So some principles of creating speed, we have these things called speed windows, and you have to do it at the right age. So if you're age 8 or 10, like, do your speed stuff, do your running fast, your jumping high, learn how to throw fast. We see the power hitters in golf have a great background often in hand sports like tennis and racquetball and badminton are actually big predictors. We also see like a background in elite track stuff, like seriously, like the javelin is an unbelievable trainer for learning how to decelerate. Brian mentioned that. Like, if you can slow down fast and just grip something really hard, you can probably hit a golf ball really far too. If you do the simple test of have somebody throw a baseball at the start of a golf lesson, you can predict club head speed incredibly well with how far you can throw a baseball. And please don't take this as a sexist comment, but more guys are working on throwing skills at a younger age than gals. And I think the gals that I've had that can throw hard tend to hit the ball far. So you have to hit your speed window, and you have to learn how to throw if you want to hit the golf ball a long way. And then we've got this idea of contrast training, which is a little bit, I'm not going to go into too much, but you have to learn how to train the right way. And contrast training is for people aged 14 to 18, some heavy lifting combined with speed training. And that's a really good way to get fast. And you do it actually in the same session. So you go do your deadlift, which is a pulling motion, and you're using your lower body. And then maybe you go do some jumps after that, plyometrics after that. And this is what our trainers can really help you do, is design a program that gets your body muscles. Because if you activate all your body muscles with some heavy lifts, and then you do something fast, you get a great performance out of that, because the muscles are just loaded and ready to go. They've got blood, they're energized, they're ready to go. So that's, I think, something that a lot of people don't know about. And then Brian and Sarah, you guys alluded to training weak links and correcting for swing flaws. And we see this all the time. And one thing that's really common is people are going to fall into a golf swing that their body allows them to do. So let's say you can't really jump. What you're going to do is just slide your hips towards the target. Let's say you're not very strong with your upper body, but you do jump pretty well. Then you probably don't rely on your arms very much, and you just jump and your club flips over and you have poor face control. A lot of junior golfers, even Tiger when he was a kid, like, he had really fast hips, but he tended to flip his hands really hard to compensate for that. So then what you have to do is get upper body strength and learn how to chop, meaning arms going down fast to get some width in your downswing. And that was my fault when I was a junior golfer, is I had really fast hips and I could jump decently. At one point I could dunk a basketball, but I couldn't throw my arms out. I couldn't get the chopping motion because I didn't build my upper body strength. So we see swing flaws are very, very much connected to your power and your strength. Next point here would be big break, which means bilateral. And this means in all your overspeed training, or even your training in the gym, you're trying to train both sides. And what we find is people that can go fast both ways will tend to be faster the way they need to be, the dominant way. So for myself, when I started training left-handed with golf, I could swing my lefty driver at about 90 miles per hour, and my righty was about 110. And then I trained for really a couple of years, and now moved up to about 115 with my right and 110 with my left. So my lefty caught up and my righty went higher. So you need to do that training bilaterally, and that will actually make you faster and more stable and less injury prone when you can train both sides. So, I mean, Brian and Sarah, when you guys see somebody that comes in and you see a weakness on one side of their body, how concerning is that?
Depending on where it's at, it can be extremely concerning, because the way the body responds to an imbalance is it tends to kind of ping pong back and forth. So if your right ankle is messed up, a lot of times it travels up into that right knee and then over to the left hip and then up into the right shoulder and vice versa. So it can cause a lot of imbalances and compensations up and down the body. So, and then you start incorporating rotation into that. And then if the right ankle is moving improperly, then their hips are not moving properly. And then it takes a little bit of a torque on their, lumbar spine, and then on up the body. So it's a huge deal.
Yeah, so we definitely see these things, and this is why it's good to get screened. So, and then the last kind of principle of speed is over speed and overload training, which we talk about with the ripstick a little bit more. So we could talk more about how to train differently in these different age groups. So we do advocate training, obviously. If you want to do it on your own, it's all about, I think, playing sports, and I don't think there's too many bad sports for this, but making sure, again, you can run fast, you can jump high, and you can throw hard. Those are the key things. So when I go down in the basement with my 5-year-old, we're going to try to throw balls at each other and softballs as hard as we can. It's part of the fun of being a kid. You got to do that throwing stuff on a daily basis and run fast and jump hard. Those are the things that are key when you're young. And then as you get a little older, then you can start getting into more of the lifting. And often, body weight's kind of really key in this maybe 10 to 13 age. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Brian and Sarah, but I think that's where body weight's pretty good. And we were talking about a meta review, which means a review of all the studies on, lifting for kids. And there's not as much, I think, risk of stunting growth as a lot of people think. So Sarah or Brian, do you guys want to talk a little bit about that? Maybe some of the misperceptions and myths about lifting as kids and what you think is probably prudent?
Yeah, we were talking about this last night. And Brian, I'll let you touch on it too, but we were talking about injuries with lifting between the ages of 10 and 13, and you're much more likely to get injured playing a sport than you are lifting. We both agree that it's really important that you're doing it in the correct form. So this would be a great age to get a trainer if that's possible, because we're going to help you with your form, which then when you are getting into that 14 to 18 range and plus, then you're really able to add on the pounds, add on the weight, and gain that strength and power.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And until you have some testosterone, it's actually pretty hard to gain muscle mass. Am I right?
Yes, so that's kind of the biggest misconception there. I mean,
yeah,
that's the window I was speaking to earlier, is we got to figure out where that window is. And especially that prepubescent or like right on the edge for females, it's a really good time to start lifting, like that 11 to 12 range, because girls tend to go through puberty a little bit earlier than guys for the most part. And bone density is extremely important for girls at an older age. So the earlier you can load that skeletal system with external force, you start to build that bone density. So having 3 daughters, I've started my 13-year-old with, she's a dancer, so she's strong, she's big, but we've been deadlifting, we've been squatting. We're starting to learn some Olympic lifting with a PVC pipe, but she really likes it. It really helps confidence as well, I've noticed, especially on the side of females. But yeah, it all depends on the kid, but don't be afraid to lift. I've seen more kids get hurt that avoid lifting due to just overuse injuries rather than getting hurt in the gym. So
yeah, the risks are far greater when you don't lift. Even talking to Bryson and some of the people that have gotten really strong, because Tiger broke down, I think some people have a fear of getting strong. And if you get strong in the wrong way, you can injure yourself. But if you get strong in the right way, you're going to be more stable. So that's I think important to remember. So, and then 14 and 18, that's when you can really start lifting hard. Make sure you're doing it right, but you can absolutely get after it. Make sure your diet's in a good spot. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Kind of recapping other sports. I don't think anybody would disagree. Other sports are good. They're going to do different things for you. I coach golf in Edina, and it seems like 90% of people play hockey. And so hockey players tend to have a real good face closure through the shot, and they tend to not flip their hands very much. So if you play hockey, you're probably going to hit down on the ball. We have attack angle issues and some of that. If you play tennis, you tend to maybe be a little handsy and rotate it over. Tennis players hook it more often than not. So all these other sports will have tendencies, but none of them are bad, and none of them are really going to ruin you. Even baseball, if you do it right, is fine. I kind of advocate right and left, maybe doing baseball left-handed, but you can do it anyway. I think hand-eye is really key. I love all my kids to play some ping pong on the side. I think it's awesome to just keep the hand-eye going and play both hands. Like learn how to play ping pong both with right hand and left hand is unbelievable. Play badminton in your backyard. Those sports are really going to be lifelong sports that are key. If you guys have heard about the Ryder Cup is fun for the players, but one thing they enjoy the most is that they play ping pong with each other you know, if they have a rain delay or before or after matches, they just love to get after it. And they're all good hand-eye people. So that stuff goes hand in hand with developing kind of your skill set. All right, let's talk nutrition, rest, and sleep a little bit. Who wants to jump in here? Brian, Sarah, you guys got some
Sarah,
stuff?
you can start off with it.
Yeah, this is another one that I wish someone would have advised me on when I was in high school. I did not have a good diet. I was that kid that could eat whatever she wanted and got away with it. Same thing, again, it finally was brought to my attention in college. And it's amazing how much better you feel when you're putting the right things in your body. And I really urge you guys to think about that, like what you're putting into your body and how you're treating your body. And your body will be nice back to you, right? So making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure you're drinking enough water, and like plain water. Thinking of the foods you're eating and making sure they're just good, healthy, raw foods, you know, they're not processed. And then if we want to break it down a little bit more, same thing, that preteen teen range that we were talking about. If you want to build muscle, like Brian said, you have to make sure you have enough calories. That's the only way you're going to put on muscle mass.
Yeah, I see. If I could just jump in here, I see so many kids, especially, I mean, boys and girls, but age 13 to 15 that are super scrawny and they're trying to get strong, but they're eating like 2,800 calories a day. And they say it feels like a job. Well, it does feel like a job. I think that's the hardest thing of getting strong is not the lifting, it's the eating.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Brian?
Absolutely. That's the hurdle I've seen more often than not, that, you know, it's more of the perception that they think they eat well, and it's not any fault of their own. They just don't know. So just it's more about building the basic habits, like Sarah said, drinking water, and yes, plain water, trying to avoid sodas. Yeah, every once in a while, it's not a big deal if you have a pizza or something. I mean, you're going to be okay. You got to get the calories in, but starting your day off properly with nutrition is going to set you up for a much better hormonal state, energy, everything like that. So if you can get, you know, a good amount of protein and fat in the morning, your brain is going to thank you for the rest of the day. If you start your day off, honestly, with a bowl of cereal, it's one of the worst things you could possibly do just for energy, because you get this cascading effect of blood sugar that you have cereal in the morning and your blood sugar immediately spikes, and then your body releases insulin and it drops back down, and then you're chasing that cascading effect all day. So if you can treat breakfast like any other meal of the day and have, you know, some animal protein and some fat in the morning, it's honestly the best thing for you, barring that you don't have any, you know, nutrition issues or, you know, dietary things that are specific to you. So it's really important. I wish I would have known when I was younger. I'm trying to preach to my kids. 2 of them are pretty good. My oldest, we kind of got on the ball a little bit late, but the other 2 are doing pretty well. And it makes a huge difference with school.
Yeah, if you're one of those people struggling to get strong and you're scrawny and you're growing fast, I would just challenge you, like, make it a goal to just for a couple of weeks, like, eat a tremendous amount, get your protein shakes in, and see what happens, because you can gain muscle and weight very quickly when you do that. So, but everybody's a little different here. I think just eating healthy is really key. So Brian's got a little video on Olympic lifts. I might just give it a quick, I don't know if we'll go through all of it here, but let's see. Are you guys hearing it?
I think I went a little in depth on this one unintentionally. I just started.
So maybe you can just talk about, Brian, Olympic lifting and what it is and why you think, when should people start doing it and why you think it's such a good thing for building strength.
So going back to training age, it's not something you start with by any means, but if we're talking about creating as much ground force as possible, you know, things like squats and deadlifts are great. But if you think about how far the bar has to travel in something like a power clean, like I'm describing here, and creating as much ground force as you possibly can to get that bar to move as fast as you possibly can all the way through the lift and to receive the bar and into a squat, the overall explosiveness of that movement, you can't really top that. And it's going to get tremendous carryover immediately into something like a golf swing. So even for me, a guy that's 40 years old, I mean, I Olympic lift 2 or 3 times a week, but not at, I'm not competing. So it's just, I love that explosive movements. I get much more carryover in terms of efficiency of my metabolism, keep my connective tissue strong, muscular development, keep your testosterone at a good point. Like all the things that are good for younger people, it's still good for older people as long as there's not any, injuries preventing you from doing it. But when you look at doing cardio, like I think it was Scott that was talking about steady state distance cardio not really benefiting him for speed, but also you look at efficiency of metabolism post, steady state cardio, you're going to raise your metabolism for, 20 or 40 minutes for the most part. When you start talking about multi-joint movements like squats and deadlifts and cleans, you're breaking down that muscle. So your body has to in turn rev up your metabolism for up to 2 to 3 days, depending on the amount of stress you put on your system. So there's a lot of correlation between speed, but there's also a lot of strength and posture and bone density and body awareness and proprioception that we've been talking about, so that you get so many good things from it. Improved grip strength. We were talking about that earlier. As a dictator of speed, it's unbelievable for a grip strength. So it's I wish I would have gotten into it earlier. I mean, I'm 8 years into it and I'm obsessed with it. It's like the way you break down a golf swing. I love breaking down Olympic lifting in the same vein. So
yeah, it's super fun. I don't think it's a little scary for some people to get into, but I think
absolutely can be.
Fun. So that's where you get a good trainer and you can really have some fun with it. So screening and why you should get screened. So screening means basically just taking a look at where your body's at, and it begins with your goals, whether it's speed or general fitness. If you have more weight than you want, maybe you want to improve more cardio. Generally, like most golfers in your age group probably need to do very, very little cardio. I think sometimes people think that you need to get some cardio for golf because you're walking. I think the TPI experts recommend like 20 minutes a week, you guys. So you almost need zero cardio for golf. What you need is explosive stuff, and you need to be able to carry around a bag or push on a cart for 18 holes. So you need to be able to walk for 4 hours, and you need to be able to go really fast for 1 second. And I don't think running is actually a very good way to do that. And I think the science is moving that way even more and more. Sprinting, TPI recommends 10 seconds or under of running, and then you slow down, then you go backwards for 10 seconds. It's more of that stuff versus actually going on a treadmill. So that's my take on it. I don't think you need a whole lot of that. But generally, like your goal for where you're at could be speed or it could be general. And then we're going to assess your mobility, which is how your body moves. Your strength, which we've talked about. Your maturation is obviously a very key part there. Amount of testosterone pouring through your body is a big factor. Whatever patterns you have with your golf swing, and then your experience with lifting and kind of comfort with the technique of it. I think those are all important factors, and we can get all those covered in a fairly short time through a screen. And then we design a program for you. So with Ripstick, we've got an overspeed track that we're going to talk about a little bit. And then we've got a fitness plan, which is $49 a month, but we're going to give anybody that wants it, a free assessment. If you guys want to email us, we'll go ahead and do that if you're interested. But what's nice about kind of committing to a fitness plan would be that if you commit to a plan, you've got somebody that's actually going to help you stay accountable. Because right now we're not doing that much in person. You're going to be doing this at home. You tell us what you have in terms of your facility, what tools you have at your disposal. You have a pull-up bar, do you have some free weights, and then we design a program around that. And we just keep you accountable. And obviously, like, we've got our own fitness team, but we just want you guys to get in shape. If you've got somebody good in your area that can help, do that. We don't care. We just want you to get better. We're offering options. So let's
Hey, Luke.
Yeah.
We got a question.
Okay.
Is it fine if I do lifting 3 to 4 times a week? Brian, Sarah, what do you think is, I mean, obviously it all depends on age and everything, but how frequent should somebody be lifting?
Yeah, it definitely depends on age. What I've seen is 3 to 4 times a week is great. I mean, especially like up north here in Minnesota, this is the off season for getting stronger. I mean, if you can get, 3 to 5 days a week in and sleep and all the things we have already alluded to prior to this, I mean, 3 to sometimes 5 days a week is great, depending on how you're programming it. It all has to be laid out properly, and rest and recovery is a huge component in that too. So, and go ahead, Sarah, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It's nice as trainers to know up front how many days are realistic for you. If 3 days is realistic for you, we'll program that way. If you think you're going to be in the gym 5 days a week, again, same thing, we'll program for that, because like Brian said, recovery is really important too. So making sure we're hitting different muscle groups throughout the week.
Yeah, I love gym rat. I love having to pull kids out of the gym rather than having to push them into the gym. So if that's something you're already worried about doing 3 to 5 days, then you're in a good position.
Yeah,
how important is variety? Not doing the same routine every single time you go to the gym.
Variety is good in a sense that you learn how to move your body in different ways, but there's nothing like a very somewhat regimented program, because a lot of times it takes 8 to 9 weeks for your body to adapt to different stimulus. So you have to give your body a window of time to actually adapt, change, figure out what you liked and didn't like, how your body responded, and then you can manipulate variables from there. But if you're constantly changing sets, reps, load, rest times, all these different variables, it can really hinder results actually.
Good stuff. Good questions. So we're going to talk a little bit about overspeed training here. And again, if you guys have other questions, keep firing away. But overspeed training is something that started with TPI and actually baseball a long time ago. The idea of taking something lighter and swinging it even faster. Your body, neural adaptation, it's called. Your body learns how to swing faster because it's light. So track athletes would do this with running downhill. They would do it with pulleys, pulling them faster. And so it's nothing new. What started in track and baseball, actually, and swinging light bats and heavy bats, is now into golf. And a company called Super Speed, which you guys probably have heard about, they created this 3 different sticks. And we worked on creating the Rip Stick, which is right here, which we're going to advise that you take a look at. But you can take these weights out. And so you can go from statically, basically 270 grams, which is very light. And then you can do some exercises with that. You add one weight, and then you're at 300, 330, 360, and you can lock it in. It won't fall out. And then we've got a counterweight cap, which is nice for working on your kind of loading patterns as well. So that's kind of our equipment. But if you wanted to do this on your own with your driver and your 7er and your sandwich, you can do it. I mean, we're just advocating a better tool for it. But honestly, it is an unbelievable way to pick up speed. And going back to our chart that we showed earlier about your strength, especially if you have decent strength, working on your speed is really good. We do this in different dimensions. So you can see, like, we do it on your knees. We do it right and left-handed. You get the bilateral component. You can do some top-down swings. We do a lead left heel, which means lift that left heel and fire into the ground. It's great for your sequencing. Almost everybody should be doing that one regularly. And our results are pretty cool. Generally, we're seeing 15 to 25 yards in 3 months. And if you combine that with some really good lifting, you can get really fast. Most of the guys I coach and gals I coach hit it a really long way when I can get them on this program for a year or two. So that's kind of the deal. We won't talk too much about the actual training, but you guys can check it out. If you wanted to fix your slice or something, we've got programs for that too. It's a simple little station setup, how we teach golf, but that's a little more than what we need right now. So that's kind of our business model. It's simply to create more speed, and it combines great with exercise. And if you are consistent about doing it, which is obviously the key to this whole idea, you're going to pick up awesome speed, 15 to 25 yards. If you're one of those people where you're fairly strong already and you're not that fast, you can pick up even more speed than that. So that's kind of the idea with Rip Golf. And we're kind of at about 54 minutes in. I'd love for us, if you guys have some questions you want, now's be a good time for some Q&A.
We got one. Does the Rip Stick come in different lengths for different heights?
Yes. Great question. We'll go back to one of our original pictures here to show that. Oh, maybe I didn't put that one in there. I thought I had. Yeah, it comes in five different lengths, 5 different colors. So all the way from basically 8-year-old all the way up to adults. So we've got yellow, which would be like 8-year-olds, and then we've got orange, which is like maybe 10, and then age 12 would be like green, and then we've got blue, which is 44 inches, which would be somebody that swings a 44-inch driver, and then 45-inch. So we go by just the length of driver that you swing, and that's the tool. And so far, I mean, just to give you guys an idea of scope and how well these are doing, we've got 20 tour players using them, about half of the World Long Drive players using this. We sent out, we contacted the Golf Digest top 50 trainers, and at least half of them actively use overspeed training. And they're all about it. These guys, they absolutely love it. So they work with tour players a lot, and everybody believes in it at that level. And then we've got 100 top list teachers, people that are, best young teachers or Golf Digest top 100s or top in state folks. So that's kind of the pull we're getting with the product. So we know it works. I mean, we had, I think 5 out of the top 50 at the Sony 2 weeks ago were using a ripstick. So that's kind of cool to see the early success with it.
Maybe we get, or maybe John or Brent or Luke, how do you guys like using it during a lesson with your students? And are you seeing results while using it?
Yeah, I have incredible results with almost everybody. There's a few people, like I'll run somebody through a workout, which is 10 to 15 minutes, and get down on their knees and they're swinging the light one, and there's some different sensations and feels going on. And you get to see how bad their lefty swing is. When I see somebody with a really bad lefty swing, I think this is a great opportunity to get faster, because as soon as that lefty swing starts to look good, then their decelerators start to fire and they can actually slow down on the other side. So that's what I see. And a lot of people, it's literally 20 yards in a lesson, but that population that I'm working with for that, where it's 20, 30 yards in a lesson, which actually happens about a third of the time, that's usually stronger people, adults that have bad swings. With kids, it's maybe a little less, but again, over a series of 6 to 8 weeks, we see some pretty awesome results.
Let's see, we got a question. Can the speed training with the ripstick help with other sports like hockey or lacrosse?
Yeah, speed is incredibly multidimensional in that if you have speed, it works in almost every direction. When you have somebody come in that can shoot a slap shot and their puck's moving at 70 miles an hour, they can hit a golf ball a really long way too. So speed is speed, you guys. And then from there, you just put it in whatever you want. And I'm sure you kind of implicitly know this when you have your buddies, the guy that runs the fastest or gal that runs the fastest and throws the hardest probably hits the golf ball the farthest too. So what we're trying to do is just learn how to train for speed. One thing I've started doing with my own training is I do a lot of throwing on my knees now. So, and if you guys are interested in that protocol, like going on your knees and learning how to throw a golf ball as hard as you can. And I use both sides. I do right and left-handed because training that motion is really, really helpful at everything. It's unbelievable how well that helps.
Do you have a workout or section of skills that you think works best for strength training and becoming stronger?
Yeah, we don't have anything like incredibly prescriptive for everybody, but generally the idea would be work different body parts. And if you're strong enough and you feel like you're able to lift fairly heavy, make sure that you're hitting different body parts on different days of the week. The way I've typically done it would be I would do kind of your pulling muscles one day, your pushing muscles one day, your legs and lower body one day, and then maybe even a chop day, which is just arms and moving fast. And that's how I've done my workouts for my kids. And I like that method, but there are lots of different ways to do that. Sarah, Brian, what do you guys have for some preferences for general ideas?
Yeah, I was going to say, Scott, whoever asked that question, feel free to email Brian or I, and we can kind of walk you through something too.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys, we're kind of at this point where like we just launched in the last couple of weeks here. So we're super happy and helpful to just give you some consulting and get you guys a free assessment at this point. We want to get you guys going. And you know, if you're a parent out there, we want to prove our value to you and keep that accountability going and make sure you're getting a great sort of value for your time. So first month will be, you know, just let's get an assessment going, get a plan.
What is the main difference between speed sticks and rip sticks? Can I handle this one?
Go for it, Scotty.
So, yeah, so with super speed, you have to carry around 3 different clubs. They're all different weights. The beauty of the ripstick is you've literally got 8 different weight combinations in one club. So it gives you a lot more variety. It's a lot more convenient. I know when I went to a national tournament a couple of years ago, I brought my super speed sticks, and it's a lot more weight in the golf bag, and it's kind of cumbersome to carry around. And the biggest thing with rip golf versus super speed is the on-hand approach of a swing analysis and a fitness assessment. We've got a team that's ready to tailor-made a program specific to you versus just here are the sticks, go and swing them.
Yeah, and if I can add as well, like if you do speed training, over speed training, almost everybody gains speed. You can hit it wildly off the planet if you don't if you don't hit some balls or have a coach there too once in a while. So if you're hitting balls into a net and you know they're going straight, over speed training is an incredible complement to it. And you know, super speeds, they kind of prove the model. We just created a better mousetrap is how I would best describe it.
Hey Luke, I got an example for your question. So I've had a couple clients basically overspeed train up into the season, and for whatever reason, maybe they run out of time, they're playing too much, or they kind of let it go through the season, and they actually talk about losing that speed. How would you talk to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, let's say you're training to run a mile, and you train for 3 months to run a mile, and you're getting pretty fast, and then you take 3 months off from that training. Are you going to be fast? No. So what I would say is it's a minimal commitment long-term to maintain speed, and it will over time continue to keep a nice advantage over where you would have been. If you keep doing your ripstick training for the next 10 years, you'll be 10 miles per hour faster than you would have been if you hadn't. And if you combine that with weight training, you're probably 15 or 20 miles per hour faster than what you would have been. So it's cumulative, but as soon as you stop, it's just like, you know, if you don't hit golf balls for a month, are you going to hit it solid? No, right? You got to keep it up, but it's 15 minutes, 3 days a week. So it's not a lot in terms of bang for the buck.
Luke, and I think Kaylee had mentioned this, somebody joining in late. Is there some place to watch the sessions online later? Is that going to be through the section website, through the Junior PGA, and then they can watch the video on YouTube, I believe?
Yeah, and we'll post it on, I'm recording it, we'll post it on Impact Golf and Ripstick as well. So it'll be everywhere. Be able to see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I have a super speed. Should I still get a ripstick?
Tell you what, if you want to DM me or send us a message and do a trade out deal, we'll cut a deal for you because we want you to have ripsticks. We want to dominate ripsticks in Minnesota here. So we'll work with you and maybe do a trade out, give you a deal on it.
How do I go about getting a free screening and getting the meal plan? I need a meal plan.
You can email any one of us up here and we're happy to help you guys. We want to get you going and get you hitting it far and having fun.
Where are your training facilities? You know, Rip Golf doesn't really have a training facility yet. Maybe down the road as a central hub. Yeah, Luke's at Interlaken. Brian's at Lifetime Crosstown. Is that right, Brian?
Yep.
And then Sarah's up in Glenwood, Minnesota, just 15, 20 minutes south of Alexandria. And obviously, I mean, there's plenty of places you can work on your golf swing and fitness. Brent's over at Ethos in Hudson. Johnny, you got your studio downtown St. Paul, right?
Yeah, that's winter and then summer at Keller. Yep.
Yep. So, I mean, And that's the beauty of all this stuff, especially with TPI and a lot of these fitness plans. You can do a lot of these activities at home with just things you have around the house. You don't need to have every single thing under the sun. It can the plans can be tailor made to what you've got around you.
Yeah, if I could chime in, I think that's the really nice thing too right now about we're doing a lot of virtual stuff. So even if we don't live close, we're able to still connect with you. I mean, Brian, would you say you met with someone today from the West Coast?
He was in Oregon.
Yeah. So, I mean, location, I wouldn't necessarily say it matters right now because we're able to hop on Zooms and still build a really good relationship without being in person, which is cool.
Yeah, it actually went really smoothly. I mean, I've been doing this 11 years. That was the first time what I felt like it was a cold call to a person, and it was a great conversation. We had, we were both there for the same reason. So it was very comfortable. It was good. I think everyone's gotten a lot more used to what we're doing right now. So yeah, it's been great.
A year ago, this would have been foreign to all of us.
Yes, very much so.
And I'll say this, one thing about where we're all at is we want you to be successful. So we're going to keep you accountable, which again is one of the reasons you pay for a trainer or you pay for a coach, is that they keep you on the track. We can see when you're doing your workouts. We use TPI to send you guys workouts. And we know when you log in, and we're going to ask you about it. And, if you got a reason for not making it, we understand that. But understand that we are absolutely invested into making sure you see the results, because if you don't do the work, you don't get results.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining tonight's webinar. Again, you can see the contact info over on your screen. If you have any future questions, please feel free to reach out to anybody. And again, we have all this information up on minnesotajuniorgolf.com, as well as options to sign up for future seminars and series in the next couple of weeks. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and if you guys want to order Ripstick, you got 24 hours to use this code, and you can get $30 off. And if you've got super speed and want to trade up, we'll talk about it. We'll cut you an even better deal.
What's the topic next week? A little sneak peek.
We have long game next week.
Long game. Johnny Riegstad.
And talk about
we're gonna
tell us about it, Johnny.
We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk the golf swing, kind of your plan for the off season, how to train your golf swing, practice, all that good stuff. And I think we'll all be on, and it'll be fun. Join us next week. Today was a little bit more fitness oriented plus golf. Next week, a little more golf. So great job today, Luke, and the Rip Golf team. And we look forward to next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.